Hi, friends, and welcome back to the Kahua Build Different podcast. Episode 5, Part 2 today, as we continue our conversation on why construction's digital shift can't be ignored. My guests today and still are Manny Innamorato, the retired CIO of the New York City School Construction Authority, and a respected industry consultant, and Rob McKinney, who is a construction safety advocate and podcast host and current executive at Salus. We're glad they're with us. We're glad you're back. Let's jump right back into the episode. Rob, I'm going to ask you a kind of a less general question, a less high level. Just tell us about some of the tech that is helping improve safety on a job site. So you're the evangelist for safety. I'm giving you the podium, man. Preach on.
We want to talk about safety specific. Probably the biggest one I've noticed in the past few years would be hazard recognition through the photos. And then granted, this is on the AI side, so it's a little big brother. It's scary to a little bit of people. But when you think about just the sheer number of people working in the industry versus how many dedicated safety professionals looking out after them, the ratio is not good. So any help you can get of using that technology to find, and right now it's still in the basic stages, right, of what Oracle's got created through a product that used to be smartbid.io, then it was rebranded New Metrics, if people know what I'm talking about. Now what that product does in Oracle still, it's looking out for, is a human wearing hard hat, vest, glasses, and gloves, basic hazard detection. But I'm seeing a little bit of different stuff over in products like Drone Deploy, where they're taking the drone footage, the 360 footage, and they're now looking for cords in the floor, trip hazards, too much material on a flat surface. That's really amazing of being able to surface faster, just the site conditions. So photos and the hazard recognition's one. Where we're heading with AR, VR for training is very exciting to me. For those that are listening, they can remember I'm just going to be serious for a minute, the amazing times of VHS tapes and DVDs that people sat through for hours with their eyes bleeding to get trained versus, no, make it a game. Put on a headset for those that can tolerate a headset and gamify this training, because we really haven't hit too hard on labor yet. But we can all acknowledge from the owner side of the table, the GC, the trades, we need more humans in this industry. And how do you train those humans faster than the old school way? On-the-job training is good for a lot of things, but it's painful and it takes a lot of time. So how can we speed up that learning cycle to give somebody the muscle memory? And let's say it's an electrician, of understanding how to wire an electrical box safely without it arcing. Or how do you explain to somebody, we're going to have you climb down 2 ladders 30 feet below grade inside a trench box to connect these giant pipes. It's kind of scary the first time you do that stuff, or go up and climb a tower crane and change stuff, right? So AR's got a big potential, I think, for these new apprentices coming in to train them up of how do you understand this industry really fast to protect them better. So detecting the hazards and the training is big.
Yeah, one of my first projects as a design engineer was to build laboratories at a naval training facility in Kings Bay, Georgia, where we simulated the operating systems on a submarine. So to your point, on the job training is great, but it's really hard to do when the job itself is very dangerous. You don't want to be teaching people how to do things for the first time in a really dangerous environment. So they created these systems in a school building so that submariners could learn how to make distilled water out of salt water without having to put the entire ship at risk, So a good point. And yeah, I think AR is already playing. And to your point, also, you want to get people in the business. We need more bodies. This is, to Manny's point, this is how this next generation's coming in. They all have a headset at home. So I might not be that comfortable with it, but the people that we want to come into the industry are.
Yeah.
Manny, I'll turn to you. Can you just tell us about a way that an owner can use technology to reduce risk?
So, I was thinking about the safety issue, and for us, from where I stood, it was more about the after the accident, right? and the speed at which we collected the data about what happened, because it used to be you filled out that accident report, put it in a little envelope, shipped it back, right? Now it's more, it was, as we sort of move forward, it was more and more about collecting the information about what happened, who was actually involved, who got transported to the hospital, right?
Right.
And then getting that information to our processors, right, who processed our insurance, and then getting that immediately started. Because we were able to, through, and then pick up I don't want to go too far there, but, and then pick up as much information to be able to do a lot of statistics on what was happening on our job sites and who and why, so that we could then funnel that back into better safety programs, right? But it was all about, because we ran an OSIP, it was all about capturing the information as quickly as possible and then getting that communicated back to everybody that needed to be involved, right? And that's where, having automated tools, having all of that available to everybody at the job site really improved how quick all of that information was transmitted. And for us, the other little side thing was sometimes those accidents were newsworthy. And so we had to make sure that we were protecting our reputation there, right, in the long run.
Yeah, school construction authority employees generally do not want to be on the news.
No, we do not. If you made the news, it was not a good day for you.
There's a ribbon to be cut, maybe.
That's
Otherwise,
different.
otherwise, do not want to be on the news.
No, you do not want to be on the news.
Rob, can you give us an example from the job site of where a new tech immediately increased profitability?
Well, I don't know about immediate. It takes time,
Okay,
I think,
good.
to realize that money coming in, and that let's land on that for a minute, because a lot of contractors are looking for that silver bullet, because in their mindset, this is what I've studied for 20 years of really thinking. They're looking at how they've always built this business, and so if we're talking about current companies that are second, third generation, when they went from a hand crank drill to a corded drill, huge immediate ROI. And then you go from the corded drill to now the battery powered that are even more amazing. But we're talking 3 generations practically, right, of that to happen. But then also to the trust. So when companies are looking now at all this tech and saying, oh, this is going to solve this problem, and it's going to, well, hold on. How long does it take to learn to use the tool? How long did it take you to put it in place, to standardize it? Because I've talked to companies from 50 workers to 5,000 workers.
Yeah.
It's still, change is not easy. So I'm not sure I can give you an immediate example of how does this impact immediate day one from the technology side? Because there is a hard upswing at some points to learn to either, let's say at the company, in their technology journey, if they're right now still using a lot of paper and they're going to go to a basic tool that maybe, let's just say even Excel, there's learning curve. Excel to a point solution, learning curve. Really good dialed in technology. Each of those, it takes time, where it's just not a silver bullet right now. It's a hard thing, but as they continue, and let's put it more like on a year spectrum. Are you substantially better a year in the future than you were before you tried it? And maybe let's say it's iPads, because I can give you some anecdotes there, right? Of 2011 and 10, full paper. I do experiments. I get that first iPad, and within a year, 15 superintendents were converted to iPads. Wasn't easy. And each of them had a different aha moment where it made their life easy. If a couple people liked because they could get emails, some liked because they could see the plans. There wasn't one thing that everyone agreed on, and I'll be honest, I still had 2. That iPad in 2012 was a paperweight. They literally handed it back. They were 65, 66, they're aging out, they're about to retire. They didn't want to deal with tech. They're like, don't move my cheese, Rob. I know how to do my job. I've been doing my job longer than you've been alive, boy. I don't need this technology. And I still come up with that mentality a little bit of,
Sure.
I don't need the tech to do my job. But that's a different mental model to get in. It's a hard sell, shall we say.
That's a good answer. I expected I might hear about robotic dogs doing inspections, or photogrammetry. You've already mentioned that as a game changer. But those things require some setup, I know. What about exoskeletons? The drywall
I think that's a
hanger.
long-term play too. So the first day, let's look at it two ways. As you take an exoskeleton and put it on a drywall person or a painter, or they're in the MEPs too.
And for
Day
the
one.
audience, I'm referring to the lightweight shoulder bands, not Iron Man. Okay.
No, we're not there yet. They've got.
I've seen some of those.
So, yeah, those will be amazing, but those aren't for sale yet. We're talking about. Let's talk right now and say the Hilti, the XO1, because that's a commercially available one, very successful. And last time I checked, it's been a few years. I think the XO1 was in the $1,500 to $1,800 range. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go to Hilti, you buy a $1,500 exoskeleton, which for this was trunk mounted, so waist up, and it was literally designed for any work. If you stuck your arm straight out, up above your head. That's what we're talking about. Hanging drywall, running conduit, running pipe, something like that. All right, so it's $1,500. Well, the human that puts it on first day, once they kind of get it dialed in and realize, I can hold a hammer drill over my head for 2 hours straight without bending and it doesn't hurt. What? All right, that's an immediate production gain because they're not so tired. The longer tail to that equation is now thinking about, you put one of those on a 20 or 30-year-old and let them work like that for 20 or 30 years, how much less risk there is to shoulder strains, rotator cuff injuries, carpal tunnel, like all of the stuff that the Gen X and boomers have had to deal with. Not saying they won't get any benefit. We're just trying to protect them to age out. We're now also looking in the demographic. If you're talking about that particular tech, how are you protecting the body for 20 or 30 years versus 5 to 10? So there's the immediate, like, oh, this is great. The long term for the company, though, is, hey, how many shoulder surgeries can you prevent with a $1,500 investment? Because last time I checked, they're in the $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 range by the time you pay for the surgery, the rehab, all of that. Yeah. That's a pretty good ROI. So I think there is an immediate to the person, like, wow, I can hold a hammer drill for 2 hours. The company, though, says, yeah, we're not going to pay $100,000 to scope your shoulder when you're 42 years old.
Yeah, great example.
I'm ready to go get one right now. I got a lot of yard work to do. Forget that 2-hour drill. I got dirt to lift.
Manny, let's talk about some other challenges besides your yard work. This may be a tough question. Nobody likes sharing the sad stories, but can you share an unfortunate story of a failed tech implementation, and then tell us what happened and what you would do differently next time?
Yeah, it's really always the same story, right? And I've witnessed this previously, witnessing it at the moment. Actually, on 2 different projects, I'm watching the opposite of each other occur. And that is when you have a person who hijacks the project in terms of what are the workflows, what are the business methods, and how it's going to work. And it is divorced from the way the work actually gets done at the sort of bottom, the people who actually do the work. And so there suddenly is a disconnect between here's how we work, here's how you think we work, and not even talking about improvements, right? And that usually leads to failure of adoption and a lot of rework. And so, again, like I said, I'm involved in a few projects now, and I'm watching the 2 things sort of evolve. And the really only difference between them is the governance structure of those projects. Are there a group of people involved in making sure that we are gathering the right data in the right way and the right processes? Or is it all siloed within one person, right? And they're not gathering requirements and they know better than you. So it is always about change management and adoption, which leads to the success or failure of any tech project, right? At any time, right?
Yeah, my colleague AJ Waters wrote our blog this month and wrote a good piece. We just put it on LinkedIn today, but it's on our blog as well, about change management in deploying new systems. So I'd recommend that to folks.
Yeah.
Rob, any thoughts about change management and deploying technology?
I'll give you a good one. About year into the tech journey back in the day. So this is probably 2012, 13. And this is a lesson still, I think, for tech companies and contractors to listen to today. So we had built a 4-story apartment. It was stick built. First time we ever had the punch list in one place that the owner, us as the GC, and all the trades agreed upon, and it was in this mythical product called PlanGrid, if anybody remembers that mythical product. So we're in PlanGrid. Now, this is also a learning curve of when I was having heart palpitations back in the day. So I get a call one day from the superintendent that says, I need you on the job now. You know, it's like 4:30 in the afternoon in Atlanta. I'm like, why? What are you talking about? Just tell me what happened. He's like, no, get down here now. I said, somebody die? No. Somebody hurt? No. Building on fire? No, just get down here. I'm like, fine. So I drive down there. That punch list that I just told you about, and it only had a couple hundred items in it. It wasn't crazy off the charts. One of the foremen on the job went into said product and deleted it.
Good job.
Right?
No more punch list items.
All of it
We're done.
gone.
We're done.
And so we're East Coast. I'm calling all of my contacts at PlanGrid at
In
the
the West
time,
Coast.
all the ninjas. I'm like, hey, I need you to bring this back. And so I was told this, and so some of this is critical too, right? I'm told this 24 hours after it happened. So as I'm talking to this person, and they remind me, they're like, Rob, you pay us to hold your plans and back up your data. I'm like, yep. Rob, you don't pay us to back up your deleted data. That's when I'm about to have a stroke on site of like,
That was an extra $5 a month.
right? I'm like, bring it back. And, long story short, this was when the technology had 2 user levels. You had full admin
Right.
and view only.
Right.
And this is when I'm having that painful conversation of I need a third. You need a middle ground. I need commenter or something. And then there was also the long discussion of like, and what would it take to back up my deleted data just in case the bonehead does something like delete a 200 item punch list on a project. And by the way, this was like a week before the first retention walk. So this is the amazing part of the industry, though, and this is the resiliency of carpenters and our amazing construction workers. So the youngest engineer on the job had actually written all of the punch lists down in his field journal. Those little orange books you keep in your back pocket.
Yeah.
We ended up going and dividing and conquering and putting it all back in. It wasn't as good as the first, but you want to talk about fingers flying on keyboards, trying to put it back in there and not go tell the owner, I'm like, yeah, remember that amazing punch list the owner we all agreed on and we're going to go do the retaining walk? Yeah, Dan deleted it. But we put it back in, boss. We put it back in. We're good. So that was one of those learning moments of the tech at the time. No one had really probably gone through that example either. And we thought we had trained everybody well, but that human at that time, this is the crazy mentality. He was so embarrassed of the documented punch list because, back in 2012, 13, punch lists were kind of a mythical thing. Sometimes they're handwritten. It's just a weird piece of blue tape on a wall. Well, here it's all there. And he thought the owner of our company would be so embarrassed to see such a big list. And what he didn't understand was he was actually the happiest he'd ever been because it was all identified, all agreed upon, and we had a clear path to retainage that he literally just threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh, wow. So it's probably like almost every accident that's ever happened on a job site. If you go to the person that's most closely involved and you ask them what happened, Rob, how many times does the answer begin with, I didn't know what, I didn't know that, I didn't know who, I didn't know when? It's ultimately about poor communication of information. So how can technology help us get better at that?
It can do it now. That's hitting on that culture question again of do humans trust the data? Because I'll be honest, I hear this a lot with trades and GCs, where GCs force trades to use software, and let's keep it in the safety vein, right? Like put all your PTPs, all your JHAs, all your safety stuff goes in our platform. Man, I can't tell you how many trades I've talked to the last year. They put it in theirs, They won't put it in the GC because of that trust part. So the communication is there right now.
Yeah.
And platforms like Kahua, Salus, I could go on and on. There's still a human element of like, that's my tribal knowledge, not yours.
All right. Well, while we're talking about trust, then we can't have a tech talk without at least mentioning the topic du jour, and that would be AI. So it's come up once already. But where do you guys see artificial intelligence as having the next big victory in construction? Or in other words, where would you like to see AI applied in order to greatly improve a construction or a business process? It might be back office. It might be job site.
So it's going to be everywhere, Nick, everywhere, right? Because a lot of the thing, I'll take as a little thing. You were talking about sort of improvements, right? Having a tool that can help you identify things within a 600-page spec of a job and easily pull out of that all the relevant data that you need, right? Everything from, did the engineer pick the right type of pipe to install, right? And being able to then through computer vision look through the 700 drawings to make sure you didn't put a pole right in the center of a basketball court, right? And yes, humans can do that work, but you just don't have enough humans to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that translates into added costs during construction, right?
Right.
Are the hallways ADA compliant? Is the bathroom, is the bar on the wall, right? All of these things, and then the next thing is going to be the assistant to the project manager. That's going to chase down all of those, right? Like right now we see it in some of the tools that we're sort of given. Summarize my emails for me today, the 300 that I got. Which ones are important, right? Now, while all of that is great, it's too generic for what we do or in any industry. They all need to become much more focused within what we do, using our own private data that we don't share out, right? So that it knows how to make the decisions based on our company's data.
Yeah.
Right? And to make that leap from what we have now, which is a chatbot or improvements in our communication, to the agentic, which is make this decision for me. I'll be in the middle of it, but tell me how you made it, and improve the speed at which we're making decisions, and we can keep the work going, right?
Yeah.
And we can make project managers get back on the job site and do what we originally hired them for, which was to manage the project, rather than to sit in the trailer and do some typing. But it is going to affect so many places, and I see it, and it's really going to be an exciting time, I think, in this industry, which is heavy on documents, heavy on drawings, heavy on all of this, what was originally paper, being translated not into even digital format, but actionable digital information.
So Rob, my advice to the industry for the last year solidly has been this, that AI models are going to be available to all of us, and of course the public domain information is available to all of us. The thing that will distinguish you using AI is the quality of your own data.
Yes.
So my advice has been for a year now, get your data in order. Most
Yes.
of us don't have good, clean, rich data. We've got lots and lots and lots of data. We don't need to necessarily compile more data. We need
Right.
to clean our data. Rob, what would you, am I still giving good advice?
100%. Let's back up a little bit. If you don't currently have data, AI is not in play. And by that I mean, if you have lots of paper forms, that's not data. Now, it's getting a little weird when you can now scan a photo of a piece of paper and the AI can digitize and turn it into data. But we got to be at a point of knowing when we say data, what are you talking about? So are you in fully digital systems where there's forms, you input information, which now gets turned into data, or you analyze the BIM or the LiDAR scan or the photo? But you're 100% spot on of telling people, sort, sweep, clean. Like, use a lean process on your data, because it's the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. If your data is literally a train wreck, if it's in multiple platforms, if it's in multiple servers, if people still keep that one random Excel spreadsheet on their desktop at a job site, Yeah, you got to sanitize and standardize the data for AI to do it. Otherwise, it's what's contributing. We haven't really talked about hallucinations, but that's kind of where it's going to start creeping up, and people not getting what they think they're going to get out of a artificial intelligence tool.
Excellent. All right, a couple more questions for you guys. Manny, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add something sort of like tangential to this, but I want to go back to the playing grid and what Rob was talking about. And I think what sometimes is missing is that there's lots of shiny rocks being pitched to us every day, right? But you have to know the vendors you're working with, how responsible are they, and are they actually acting in a way that will protect you over time, or you're just getting the shiny rock that's going to break your window, right? And that's very important for people to remember, because we're entering the shiny rock phase, right, of AI. Right? Every day I get a new email from a new startup, and I have to wonder, are they going to operate in a way, or are they just looking to create something that they can sell away at some point, right?
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
One that I like to end a podcast with, or one of the last questions. If you could wave a magic wand and instantly create a new app to be used in delivering projects safely, on time, under budget, with high quality, what would your new app do? Rob, I'll start with you.
Something I'm working on right now is creating safety training content, specific safety training content. So for a long time, you could go to websites and get all these generic toolbox talks, or trade associations have made them for years, and they're great. But is one GFCI talk really applicable to 20-something different trades? Is one toolbox topic about heat illness really applicable to 20-something different trades? And this is something, it took me the last 6 months, as I've been playing around more and more with AI, I had the old mindset of like, let's collect all this data and put it somewhere, and the AI can make it easier to find it. And then it dawned on me, like, Google already does that.
Yeah.
What we're wanting to do is you want to have all of those resources, the legacy, quote, approved training materials. And now, as we're teaching safety professionals this new concept of how do you prompt an AI, how do they now literally create, let's say you want to create a heat illness prevention plan for a mechanical contractor working on rooftops in Tampa, Florida in the summer. That protocol is not going to give you the same thing for that same company working in Seattle.
Right.
That's the kicker, right? Is specific trade company targeted training materials created for them. And as this continues to percolate, that toolbox talk that they may generate now for Tampa versus Seattle, it could look different in a year or 18 months.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Manny, I'm giving you the wand. You get to wave it and make one app that will do anything.
One app. So for me, it really would be, as the number of projects that you're trying to manage enters that 1,000, 2,000, simultaneous.
Right.
1,500. I would love it if there was an app that made sure that the governance of how the project was being administered, right? How the data was being collected, how the daily reports were being filled out, was being done in a way that was adherent to the standards of the organization, right? So that I know that by the end of the project, you have collected everything I need to go forward, right, with the asset, and I have a base of data that I can use to feed other systems consistently, whether it's repairing a bathroom or whether it's building a 12-story building. It's being done in a consistent way.
Excellent. All right, great answers, guys.
Yeah.
Now, the final question I like to ask at the end of every podcast: where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about these topics? Are there books or podcasts or websites that you would recommend?
So I think there's quite a bit of information out there, right? A lot of stuff gets published out on LinkedIn, right? Constantly, daily. So I would say make sure that you're sort of locked into the right types of topics that are popping up in your social feeds, that you're seeing construction related articles every single day or whatever you're interested in. But the sort of the era of that, let's go to this website, let's go. Aggregation is the key for our folks to be able to scroll through 10, 12 articles a day without really it being that difficult. And then you can always call me or email me at manny@enamorado.nyc.
Excellent. Thank you. Rob?
We'll tell the contractors, lean into the trade organizations that you belong to. There's so many amazing ones in the United States. There's
Yes.
too many to list them all now. But, if you're a general contractor, well, there's kind of two. If you're in the trades, there's a lot. And you kind of know, if you're a plumber, you know which ones they are. If you're
Right.
an HVAC or electrical,
Yeah.
lean into those associations because they are doing so much amazing work on your behalf to put out great materials. Now, granted, they're member specific for a reason, but lean into those. And then at the chapter level, take advantage of networking. So if you're
Yeah,
on,
join.
safety committees, technology committees, whenever you can network with people at those local associations, that's also going to be your key to those new knowledge nuggets because, that's why I struggle. I'm like, okay, I could give you like 14 different podcasts right now, like index them by, well, you want safety, listen to this one, tech, listen to this one.
Yeah.
But what I get out of it's different. So I'd say lean into your trade associations nationally and locally. They will provide you a lot of good materials.
Yeah, the CMAA is a good organization locally that I do attend their meetings. And beyond their publications, just being able to listen to their monthly topics, right, which are always relative to your region, right? And you get to meet everybody, right? And they're really, really good.
Well, I love the advice. Don't just subscribe, don't just join, but be involved. So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, that's great advice. Thank you for today. Thank you for all these contributions. We do this podcast because we want to make our industry better. We want to help people make their projects better, help them enable for themselves. So thank you for being with us today. Of course, if you're listening, this is, we believe, a pretty good source of information. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please like it, please subscribe, and we hope to see you next month for the next episode. Thanks all.
Thanks, Nicholas.